Well, hello there, and welcome to my little arty corner of the internet. I nearly said good morning, but here in the South Wales Valleys in the United Kingdom, it's just a few seconds short of midday. I eventually got back to sleep and slept till about 10:30, and between breakfast and coming round and odds bits and bobs and colouring paper in, as in colouring paper for backgrounds and so on, just taking some quiet time this morning. Time has flown by, and I do have work to do because I've got a little bit of the second of 3 templates to colour in, and so I can start on the third one and hopefully get that one done by Monday. So, well, it will be done by Monday, which is no problem. So I trust you're all fine and well. It's a bit grey here today. Looks a bit damp out, but dry in places. It's a strange day. It's a sort of like a misty kind of, damp and coolish day. I think there might be rain forecast for later on or showers, but I don't know for sure. But here we are. So it's day 15 of the Fragment of Your Imagination challenge, run by the 7F5R challenge Facebook group and the 3 women who actually run that. So I've got the fragment for today. It's C14, which builds up into a tangle pattern called Mia. And this is in a triangle, but obviously if you've been seeing my videos, you know that we can use these ideas in many different shapes. But the key part of this tangle is how a shape is divided, the basic grid shape, the basic cell of the reticulum of the grid that you build up into an overall pattern is divided with a wavy line. And in this instance, these lines that radiate out from the corners up to the line and they connect with each other is part of this particular fragment, but it doesn't have to stay that way. Excuse me a moment. There we go. Fine. All right, so let me just draw another one here, and I will do my best to keep myself in frame today. I get so engrossed in drawing, I forget sometimes. I'll try and keep my hand out the way. So it doesn't matter which way round you draw the fragment. You still put this curved line in. I've done it like an S shape, which is simply enough to fit in, and then all that you do is draw lines from the corners to that particular line and back to the sides. And not to the sides. What did I do there? What an empty. Deliberate mistake. Down there. Tell you what I'll do. I'll turn this into part of the pattern. Let's see what happens if I fill in this side and perhaps this one in black. This could be fun. I'm just going to carry on. I'll do it in alternates on each side. Hopefully the lines still match up, not quite. Oh, I'll have to do that all in black. I'm sure this can be done better. But hide the crimes. So that could be an interesting fragment actually. So let me do this on a different side or different one. Got that curvy line there. And I'm remembering that I need to go to the bottom corner after each time I draw a line in. And can I squeeze one in here? Oh, I think so. And let's have a look at how that would look if I did these in an alternate fashion. So let me just get a brush pen here, because that'll make a quicker job of this. And I'm less likely to wreck the nib of my lab. So I hope you're all doing fine and well. I'm all right. I was a little bit unwell yesterday. with a bit of a cough and runny nose and sneezes. Not coughing all the time, but it was unusual for me to have a cough. A cough is a symptom of my asthma, and so if my asthma isn't treated properly, if I don't keep it under control, then I do tend to get coughs more than anything else. And so I was, it wasn't bad enough that I needed to use the reliever inhaler, but I was just aware I had an unusual cough for no reason, because I've been taking my inhalers and everything as I should do. So I did a lateral flow test, which was negative, so that's nice. I thought it would be, because I don't actually spend time with people, but I had been to a supermarket earlier in the week, and I'd been to my accountant, and I had a bit of a picky throat as well. So so I just wanted to make sure, in case I needed to let the people at my accountants know, just so they could be aware. I'm doing another one in a couple of days just to check, because my throat still is a bit picky and I'm still feeling not quite right, but there we are. So this one, I've put more of a humpy lumpy line in, a wavy line. It's got a bit more waves to it. And with this one, I'm going to pop lines in that don't go back to the corner, but they're more or less parallel with this side here, and I'm going to leave this side empty. So it would be akin, and let's do it, I say akin to, I was going to say something and I lost what I was going to do. So what I'm going to do with this one is, it's not easy to compare them, is it, when I do it this way? So let me do another one like this one and compare them with each other. Oh, CF, if you've never come across that before, I don't know whether it's just science or something else. I think it's Latin in compare with, it's a short thing. So compare this one and this one together so you can see the difference. We'll leave the middle one for now. So with this one, I did these lines parallel to this line. What about if I do them parallel to that side? Like so. And we'll do another one, same shape. It's a slightly different curve there, and we'll compare this with this one as well, and of course with the first one, because I'll know what I've done. And I'm going to put horizontal lines in, and of course you could just fill this in with black or with cross hatchings or whatever, but each one gives a different kind of feel to that pattern. It does feel different, and these are pretty much the same kind of distance apart, the lines in each of these sections. These ones are a little bit wider, but you can see the difference that makes. And the other thing I think I'd want to do with this is give the lines some thicker shadow, so it looks like something's been cut away. I don't know if you can see that. So here it looks like part of the uncoloured layer has been cut away. If I do those thicker lines on the other side, then hopefully it'll look like this stripy layer was on top, and it looks like we've got this cut away here. And shadowing, adding shadow and highlight will really help with that. This one I'm just going to thicken just where the curves are. So I tidied that one up. I need to make these ones a bit wider. So there's some interesting variations. And of course we can, let me just pop some parallel lines in here. And these are parallel to, roughly to this side. And then we'll take these and go this way, so they appear to be parallel to this side-ish. It's not very good, but that looks more like a leaf vein, whereas this one doesn't. I think that's the big difference that I've got there with this. And of course with these ones, I say of course as if it's an automatic thing. So if I pop some lines in like this that are parallel to that side, so it's akin to that one, then on the other side of this line, I'm just going to tidy up my edges, and I'm going to thicken this line so I don't lose it. I don't want to lose that line this time. I can pop lines in there, and again it divides it up. So these are all variations of this in some way or another. What if we do things in a different way? That's the same, but instead of going from corner to side, what about if we go roughly from side to side? So that would give it's still a wibbly wobbly line, but we can still do the addition of lines to the sides. I'm doing it this way, which is not the right way actually. Yeah, that variation would be if we compare this to this. Here I did the lines, this one has the lines radiating from these bottom corners. This one I started to have the lines going from the top corner down. So that's another way of varying them, but you get this. I think if you tried to do it the other way, you might as well not have that line in. So again, I'm going to compare these to see where those lines come from. Just a reminder for me to have a good close look. This one though, I'd offset that curvy line to one side, and that works much nicer, I think. And of course, don't forget, she says, we can aura that line just on one side and keep the other side as it is. But what strikes me about that is that if we do a really nicely loopy curvy one, I'm going to aura it and then create a diva dance kind of thing going on here. I'll just put some bumps in, so that's a different way of doing it again. I like that one actually. Out of all of them, that's the one that's my favourite so far. Okie dokes. So we go here. Oh, I am going to draw a wibbly wobbly line in, and I'm going to create a wibbly wobbly line like that. Same idea, isn't it, really? It's just that I've created that space in between, which a gem or seed could be nestled within. So that's that's a bit different and a bit nice. What is nice about joining the centres of the triangles up is that it would make it a lot easier to create a reticulum from these, because you would have that commonality of position along the side, so it looks like things carry on one from another. So that's something to bear in mind, is to try to get this perpendicular here Of course, you can always adjust it slightly by adding some weight, which helps. And I think that is something else that really does help with patterns like this, is adding that little extra thickness, wideness, addition of ink at the end of the line. There's something about it. And if you I've done this often, if you do it in a more extreme kind of way, you end up with almost petal shapes. And that creates a different kind of feeling to the pattern as well. Not that I'm doing it very well this morning. You get the idea. So there's something in there, there's a gap in there. Okay, so we've done that. Talking about gaps in the middle. Let's put a circle in before we draw our wiggly line in. And then I'll have a go at adding these from the corner again, and just going back to this corner over here and joining them. This one, do you notice I nearly went to this corner down here and caught myself just in time? So that adds something different in the middle of it. I'm not sure that's such a good idea. I think it might work better if the line is aura'd as well as this circle within a circle. I've done a good job there, but that would help to define that central part of the pattern. So different ways of splitting up and of keeping separating those two areas. But of course anything goes with this, doesn't it, really? I said the characteristic of this is the wibbly line. So here I'm going to, instead of wibbling that central line, let's wibble these. So we have wobbly lines instead of straight ones there. It just gives a different texture, I think. I'm really not with it today. I can tell you that much. I'm choosing here to radiate the lines out from that central point. So it gives a different kind of feeling. I'm not sure that's entirely successful, but I'm sure people will work it out if they wish to. It's just one of those things. I was saying in yesterday's video how sometimes we do something, we think, oh, that doesn't work. You go away, do something else, and then you come back and you think, actually, that quite works. So I think these two variations are my favourites, to be honest. I'm just trying to think if there's another one. It is that instead of having and I'm going to compare these with each other as well. It's here we have that curvy line going centrally here. I'll have it joining one side of instead of going from the point, is going from the side to the side, or the points, and compare them with that one as well. Compare them all. There you are, that'll do. And how we can separate that up so it's not as symmetrical. I actually quite like that one. That one's quite nice as well. That's the original one. This one's got less edge to it. The other thing, I suppose, is we could pop 2 of those in to separate that space. And if I do it this way up, I think you might see better what I'm thinking of. For some reason this makes me feel like a crest on the side of a mountain, and I was hoping to get it there, but it looks more like a river now. So there we are. What about other shapes then? So let's have a look at some other shapes. Square. Well, of course that's going to work. Yeah, we can take corners. So opposing corners for this. A bit more awkward, but it'll work the same kind of way. I suppose. Yeah. Not as, doesn't feel as natural. So instead of going along the sides, that doesn't feel right. Let's do that wavy line from corner to corner, from one corner to corner, and then have these going from corner to corner like this. You can see. So that's a much nicer way of splitting the square up. That one is really, feels just really awkward. But I wonder if I do this one again, I offset it and perhaps put an aura in. Maybe not having lines that go diagonally. But let's see what happens if I do that. That's really quite fun. It looks like a cliff now. And I've just gone from where these corners jut out and stop where they do. I can imagine this one going off if I wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it there. I wonder if that would work for the one that goes diagonally as well. Of course it will, she says. As long as you've got a big enough curve. I think this one would need to go horizontally though. So yeah, so all I'm doing is rotating. Duh, told you my brain wasn't working. And then this one here. What about in a triangle? Let me try that in a triangular fragment as well. There we go, and we can, looks like a path. So I can choose to pop these this side, which would work quite nicely because this one then would go back there. And I'll pop another triangular one like this, and perhaps do this, create these cliff edges on this side. So that looks like cliff mountain, and then perhaps sea or air there. So those are fun. I like that as well. This gives a nice, these ones give a nice space for adding patterns to, as do these. We have a look at this one again. Because that one would be quite nice to add. Slant those in and you get a different kind of cliff. But it also could be quite nice to to do them in a different ways because you're playing around with them, so that's fun. Okay, let's do a circular one because circles will always work, I think. Nice big circle, well wibbly wobbly. Lots more space to get a nice wobbly line. And I prefer greatly, I think my preference is to double these up and then to just do something with one side. And I am doing very simple cross hatching, filling in with just simple lines today. That's quite nice. That would be very dramatic done entirely in black actually, so let me get my black brush pen. I enjoy these little, well, I used the word yesterday, coddiwomple. And a coddiwomple is to have, it's vaguely to journey to a vague kind of destination and to journey fairly aimlessly towards that vague kind of destination. And that's exactly what I'm doing here, is that I know I want to create variations starting with this fragment and seeing where they lead me. My destination is a page full of variations, but the exact paths and twists and turns I take, I do not know where they will lead me. So that one's very dramatic, but very nice. Now this reminds me, that shape reminds me of this pattern, which I think is called Ruffle or Cruffle. And it is just putting that S shape in the middle of the circle, and then it's adding a flux shape here. And if you're careful enough, you can actually add another one in the middle. And I think it's nice if that one is black. It just adds that contrast there. And you can do a full cruffle or a half cruffle. I'm sure it's cruffle. I'm particularly fond of this one. So that's taken me to that. So let's have a look at triangular cruffles. Truffles? And again, I'm going to keep that S shape. Oh, that's not a very good S shape, is it? But let's have a look. Go from this side down. It's not going to work as easily, is it? Because we haven't actually got a distinct, so that doesn't work. I think it would work in a square, so let's try a square. But this one would definitely have to go like this. And then you have to work out which way. I think I'd want one here. Perhaps one there. It's not as nice a shape as this one though. It's possible to do, and I think it would lead to other, it could lead to interesting. Oh, that's the better way of drawing that S. I think it could lead to, there we go. That one's better, that one's not quite so good. But a shallower S to allow it to work in the square. Some right disasters here this morning between this one and this one. And this one. But they're disasters in that what I've created I'm not very happy with. I don't like the look of them. But in terms of learning more about the pattern and changing things and altering things, these are things to learn from. This one hasn't worked out, but by changing that S to a flatter kind of S shape allows me to put these shapes in, and I might even possibly be able to if we tried to create a rounded curve here that goes more with the corners of the square, and I feel that fits a bit better, so that's a possibility. This one just doesn't work. And my head just can't compute how to get a triangle to work. That's quite nice. Part of me is thinking about a triangle is having 3 S shapes coming off it, which you can't see. So I started with a central dot, and I've done that one. You do have to rotate these, Angela, come on. So I'll go that way, and it is a case of going along and then curve it up, and we get that kind of shape there, which I guess has possibilities for all kinds of things, but when in doubt, add an aura and see how that changes things. So that's an interesting one. It adds some interesting shapes that could be filled with patterns or just aura lines or other things. And of course that's definitely possible. Kind of idea is definitely possible within a circle. This is beginning to go like Tangle, isn't it? Or oh, what's the one that looks like the Oogie Boogie man from Nightmare Before Christmas? Or not, is it? So it's got the potential of doing that if we use many of these S shapes. I'm sure that we could. So we don't aura from the corner of one of these lines but if we take these lines as being, we could aura from them. Let's have a look and see what happens if I do that. Have radiating aura lines like this, and do that from the same corner in each one, because they move against each other that way, not having them joining. I think this one would need a lot of shadow, but I think it could be an interesting kind of concept. I'm not sure I've got my brain on right today to be able to work that one out. That's interesting because it's almost made like flower shapes in here where these straight lines have joined the edges. So that's turned out to be quite an interesting one to do. I think some shadow will really bring that out. So there's some interesting things going on here. Oh, I'm absolutely positive that a ginkgo type shape or bell shape would work perfectly well. Different way of dividing this one up, and part of me is tempted just to put the lines on one side and just keep auraing them like that. I mean, it's possible to do anything, I suppose. The oval shape will work perfectly well. So easy to put that line in the middle, and of course it lends itself wonderfully to that idea of Cruffle as well. We pop those flex shapes in like that. That is lovely. I prefer that to the original Cruffle over here. I do like that one. Nice job, Angela. We're getting there. And if we make the shape more extreme, then by shape I mean the S shape in the middle. So you're going to bring it back just to a single line like that. So that works quite nicely as well. Okie dokes. So these areas can be filled with auras and black and white alternating, or patterns, whatever you like to do. You can put seeds in them. If I pop the overlapping seeds here, squashing those orbs in, then get this rather nice kind of double seed pod. Okay. Colouring where I've got the spaces, and yeah, I've missed a bit, but there we are. So that's an interesting one. Oh, talking of interesting things, let me take this shape again. I'm going to pop a double aura in, and then add semicircle shapes this side, and something like a seed or a leaf poking out, just like that. So that's a possibility. We've done this, something similar to this, but we've got there by a different route in previous variations, explorations. So that's always a possibility to do as well. That could be fun in a square one. So instead of having just a simple curve or a straight line, you can have that S-shaped line here. And then let's pop a circular shape underneath it, and eventually get down to black. And then this side, I think I may do these this way. So that would be an interesting kind of variation as well. Yeah. What about if that kind of shape is popped in? So it's up, down, up. Well, aura, because I like an aura. Now there's two ways I can add something to this. So up, down, up. So this down points towards a corner point. So I could do the same as I've done here. I could add, perhaps keeping that square shape going there, and just fill this in. Create that darker part there. Or we could put darker part on the larger side. Which gives interesting opportunities, I think. Okay. That one has more about it. Again, I think I may just add the shadow on each side like this with these radiating lines. Though I quite like them plain, to be honest. So I think there's a bigger contrast there. Or instead of having the lines radiating, we could just do some simple auras. And I'm putting these little areas of like sparkle in the highlights where I break the line. With the bigger lines, I'm breaking the line twice. Here, I'm just breaking it the once. So we've got variations there, there's possibilities there. They're quite fun. Still got my morning mocha. It is mocha today. And quite a strong one with coffee for me. Trying to bring myself round and it's not working very well. Okie dokes. Okay, let's have a look at a wibbly wobbly shape. And I'm going to make this look a bit like we're looking down into a hole by thickening these lines in certain areas. And let's take that S shape there again. I'm going to double it up and let's have a look at, if I take the side almost as where I'm going to create these from, but I'm not going to create a distinct point. If I want this to appear that it's hiding beneath a hole, then I want these lines to appear to converge elsewhere. And this one, actually this does look like it's poking up, doesn't it? There's another alternative. Let me do this. I won't thicken those lines. But instead of taking the point at the edge, I'll come back and do this in a moment, is to decide on a point somewhere along that S line and radiate lines out from that point. Now here I've chosen to offset them simply because I can. But you could have them opposite one another as well. So let me do another one. So if I start with here with this one, still, yeah, you can still see what I'm doing. So we've got that. That is nice just as it is. So I'll leave that one. That's a reminder to me, I do like it half done. So I'm going to take this point here and just draw the lines out from here to wherever they go. And opposite that point and just do the same here. I'm not making any effort to make sure I've got an equal number of lines because ultimately that's not important because I'm not joining them up. If I wanted to be particularly fussy about it, that gives a feeling more that this line is perhaps sitting above those. Whereas as I've thickened this line here, I've decided to do that because it gives me a feeling more that these are perhaps underneath the line as well. So it's all to do with how you add shadow. So I've added shadow on this side. Here, this one definitely feels, it could feel either way. So if I just pop some shadow on this side and perhaps darken this, it feels almost like the edges of a clam coming together, to be honest, there. A seashell. And you could actually do that by that feeling, by putting little dots in it. Did you know that giant clams have blue shaped eyes, have blue coloured eyes? Yep, they do. That was my very first game of Trivial Pursuit, going back donkey's years. That was my very first question. What colour are a giant clam's eyes? And I guessed correctly, they were blue. And they say you never forget your first ever Trivial Pursuit question. Why? I don't know. But yeah, so I've never forgotten that one. And that was the answer on the card. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I should have checked it actually, but I would imagine it is. So that's fun. Okay, let's have a look at the triangle. Let's go back to the original triangle. And let's do this curved shape there, and I am going to aura it, and I'm going to do the same in that instead of choosing to go to the corner points, I'm going to start at a point along the curved line. And of course it's going to work, but it's nice to do it for contrast. What I haven't done today is to play around with spacing, particularly of these lines, or putting patterns within, because to me that feels pretty obvious now. So I've done one triangle where I've only done half like that. Let's do another triangle here where I perhaps do both sides like this. And it's turning this, not upside down, I'm turning the paper upside down, not turning the fragment upside down, but it's looking at it from how to construct it perhaps from just a different point of view. So again, that works quite nicely. It looks almost like we've got them radiating from the middle, which is similar to, was it yesterday's? Not on the back of that one, it's on in my book that I've got beside me. Let's have a look at yesterday's. Yeah, I'll bring this in, hopefully we'll get it clear. But it's sort of like this, but we've got that S shape over the top. So I didn't get there with that one, but we certainly have got there with this one. So again, we've got shell shapes and so on. So lots of fun, lots of interest, lots of ideas to try. And I've got a page full, which is always well, nearly a page full. I'll keep some of these clear now because I'm going to do some shadowing just to see what happeneth. Because happeneth is a good thing. Or rather, seeing what happens is a good thing. I don't know where happeneth comes from. What happeneth? What's going to happen? Oh. So we've just lost a paper stump somewhere deep down, dark in the depths of my area. So let's have a look. I'm going to start with this one. And I'm going to put shadow right the way around the outside of those, where those lines are, just to add some depth and dimension there. And to try and get that to look as if this is very much underneath this area. So I'll just add some more here just to darken that one up. I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow around the edge of the outside just to set that back again and to bring that highlighted area out. Does that work? Possibly. Might need a bit more around the edges, to be honest. I apologise for the squeakiness. I don't know why this is squeaky today. It just is. There we go. These ones, I said I wanted to make this look like we've got shadow round here as if I've got this within some kind of hole. So it is a case of shadowing around, creating the largest, thickest shadows where there would be the most shadow, and still need some where there wouldn't be, just to set it back a bit. That kind of works, and it helps to have that sort of pulling up. I'm going to add some more where I want it the darkest. This is why I love chalk pastels, is that you don't have to be all that precise about getting, you're going to blend them out anyway. You don't have to be all that precise about putting them down neatly. Okay, this one I'm going to add some shadow within these, but also at the tips. You see? So I've put some of the chalk pastel inside at the thin end of these, so they'll be darkest, and just move it up, blend it out so we've got a gradual change. And then at the opposite tips there, I'm just adding some shadow which will contrast with that lighter area and help to bring it out, so it really creates some weird kind of illusion. These, I think I'm going to add shadow just on one side of these perhaps. See what happens first. And I start by sort of like moving my paper stamping little circles just to move that out, and then smooth it out with smoother movements. Again, I think I might just pop some shadow opposite to where it's lightest, just to help to settle this back a bit perhaps. Let's give it a feeling that we're falling away from these, or it's further away than the highlighted parts. That's fun. This one, oh gosh, I think the shadows have to go in the corner. Let's see. I'm sure there are other ways to add shadow and highlight to this, but let me start here. It's got that feeling of wanting to have the biggest shadow there. Perhaps a little bit going that way. And try and get the shadow to aura the shape of the line where the highlight is, if that makes sense. So I want the top of the shadow to have that same kind of curve. It's easier to see than it is to describe what to do. There we are. And I'm good with words, but I do find that that's worked out quite interestingly. There we are. Okay, this one I'm going to add shadow on either side of that central line. And to sort of increase the illusion here that we've got that line above all of the others, and that does work. I am looking at the screen as I do this because when I work closely with things like this, I can find it incredibly difficult to see the illusion up close. And so by looking at the screen, I suppose it's the equivalent of holding this at arm's length, but it also gives me a different way, a completely different way of looking at it, as in I'm looking at the screen, not looking at the actual artwork. So it looks different simply because I'm looking at it through a different medium, which sounds absolutely bonkers, but it's not. In my mind, it's not. Okay, so that's interesting. It's like a very strange pebble. This kind of shape would work like these, or these, I think, if we can get that shape going in there. Have a look and see if I can do that. So not sure. Yeah, it would be an uneven kind of thing, but it would work, I think. Just pop some darkness where perhaps I would like shadow to be. So I am essentially carving out some spaces with shadow in, so it looks like they are further down. I'll come back to those when I finish. So that is a possibility as well. Those would work. It's the more circular or shapes that have a very small number of sides, or the irregular ones that work best with this Cruffle idea other than a circle. Squares, triangles don't really work. Okie dokes. So hang on. If I were to split a triangle into that way, then we'd get this kind of shape going on, but it's not the same, is it? So there we are. Okay, this one, this one really does need to feel here as if the stripy bit is domed up, and that involves putting shadow right the way around a highlighted space. So like that. And if I go over to these ones, again, let's just get shadow under here. Again, trying to mimic the shape of this curve with the shadow, the edge of the shadow. That again gives that feeling of having something slotted in underneath. This one is lush. And I think I may just pop some shadow underneath this line, and then at the tip as well. Let's have a look. Let's make it feel that that is also raised up. It's like an edge or a lip, almost like it's curled back on itself. So that's fun. This one has got some interesting things. It's got almost like highlights here, and this is a shadowed area. So let's try and pop some shadow in there, and shadow down here, and try to preserve these highlighted areas. Now I've gone into this outside edge here, which is fine. Pop this here. So that really does create that feeling of waviness that's there as well, which is fun. Just play with the autofocus a moment. I think it's got out of bonk when I put my, or perhaps it's just me peering through my glasses. These ones is this opposing cornery bits that need the shadow. This one, I'm just going to pop some shadow inside that one and then round the edge. So either if you've got a decent tortillon with a sharp point and you've got a small drawing, you can do this, or you just draw on a bigger scale. That shadow around the highlight helps to, but either way it gives that sense of dimension, which is lush. This one, I'm going to pop some shadow under there, so it looks more like a cliff, and the same with all the others I could do. Let's just add some shadow under here. Just to get that feeling that something's been cut away. Where were the others? I said, oh, that feels like something's cut away. These, isn't it? Choose where to put the highlight, or the low light shadow. The low light would be underneath there, and that automatically lifts this up. And a little bit of shadow, I think, down here. May just help with that feeling in a way. Perhaps a little bit too much, but having the highlight on that, just that top edge, just does help to lift it up a little bit. Okay, the original one, I definitely would put shadow where those lines meet, because it's the obvious place. But did I do another one like this somewhere? No, not really. Do this one, put the shadow this side, but on this one I'll put the shadow underneath that line and see how that appears. I've got an inkling it'll work nicely, but my instincts, my inklings aren't always correct. That does give it a very different kind of feel. It almost looks like these are going underneath and this is sticking up, which is an interesting twist. Not quite what I expected. Okay, over here with the Diva Dance, I'm just going to put shadow around the edge and under that area there. Just almost so it feels like I've revealed that lovely Diva Dance there. I could have done it the other way and had this in shadow. This actually looks like waves, doesn't it? So, you know, sandy sea, sandy land and wavy water, which is quite nice. So let me just do this one the opposite way for comparison. That's why I think I'm turning towards using a single colour for shadow rather than changing a lot of colours up, is it does allow that comparison between one way and another. I mean, even though these aren't identical, they're close enough that I'll be able to compare them and see the difference. This one, again, I've got this area that I want to appear as if it's floating above. So it is just a question of adding shadow. These ones will be fun, because there will just a little bit of shadow needed at the base of these points, really. Oh yeah, and I said I was going to come back to this one here, and I'm going to pop the shadow where I think there's going to be some shadow. Inside these areas here. Try to keep it in a tight enough area that I don't end up with a whole space filled in this blue. So there are some areas that are highlighted. So that gives a nice feeling of shadow there, pop some shadow here, and perhaps a little bit of shadow. I'm checking where I'm going. Put shadow underneath these bottom areas, it'll just sink, you know, make them disappear away a little bit, feel further away, perhaps just a little bit down there. So that's a really interesting kind of shape. So yeah, I think we need to get the idea, I think, of how these can be shadowed quite nicely. that one is I want it to appear as if I'm looking inside a hole, looking down in a hole at it. So it's right the way around the edges, so it's going to need to be darker, I think. So that would work quite nicely. So there we are. Lots of ideas. So playing around with the original quite a lot more. There's not a lot of, well, there is quite a bit of deviation with some of the variations here from the original, but I think they work. It's quite interesting and quite nice, and there's opportunities to develop all of these things still further. And I'm absolutely positive that I haven't explored the whole entirety and possibility of this particular pattern. So I'm going to say thank you once again for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure, as it always is. And I look forward to seeing you here again for another video. And I will have one most probably tomorrow, which will be day 16's fragment. I don't know what it is. I don't look in advance. And I also may get an extra bonus video at some point soon to have a look at a look back at my week in arts that perhaps isn't the fragment challenge, because I have been drawing. So for now, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me. I hope you found some ideas here you can work with, or the confidence to have a go at doing this yourself, because you can do it, you know. Just some ink and paper, a pen and paper, and the paper can be as, you know, ordinary everyday as printer paper. It could be junk, you know, paper that you can draw on, whatever you like to do digitally, and just play around with these and see what happens. So until we see each other again, take care, look after yourselves, and take time to be creative. Bye-bye for now. Hoil, bye.